Alan, I'm going to, as you start talking, I'll pull up, when you start talking about Saskia, I'll pull up a picture of her, and then we'll show the film as well. But Alan is a great advocate of the sector, and is the brains behind, I think, the National Gallery Masterpiece Tour when it comes to Whitehaven. It's not the first time they've done this. It's a great thing they're doing. So, Alan, over to you.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for giving us the opportunity this morning to have a chat with you all. I'm not sure if you're all aware of the Masterpiece Tour, but it actually began back in 2014 with the National Gallery. The idea being that they want to try and take the art that belongs to all of us, the collection belongs to every one of us, out into different locations. I put an application in 2020, early 2020, to join this Masterpiece Tour, and on the back of a successful application, we were given the opportunity to be in a 3-year programme with the National Gallery and 2 other partners, the Oriel Davis in Newtown in Wales and the Carmarthenshire County Museum in Wales. So basically, the first painting was already selected by the National Gallery, which was Chardin's House of Cards. And the second painting of Saskia van Eilenberg was actually selected by all 3 partners, as in how it could best try and support their own local areas. Now, obviously, with the name Rembrandt resonates quite a lot of strength worldwide. And we've found that with the process this time around, we learned a lot of answers from the first painting. We tried to engage a different way, but this time we sat back as a core team and really thought about how we can make it more inclusive. On the back of that, actually, we've had a really successful volunteer programme come out of it. We've got 21 volunteers who are actually supporting not just the invigilation of the painting, but actually engagement of the public coming in through the door. We actually ran some in-house training for all of the volunteers in presenting with confidence, different styles and different techniques to try and reassure new people coming into the museum that they could make the painting come to life in their own way and to make it come alive for a new audience. The actual programme we put together was, it's a phrase that we use a lot of to try and break down the barriers to culture and the arts, is that with the schools programme, with Alex and myself that we put together, and the Whitehaven Primary School cluster with Andrew Beattie at St James's Junior, we managed to put out a possible art programme to engage as many children as possible. Now, on the turn of that, we had, I think it was over 319 children take part from various year groups and including an academy group as well, to support the exhibition. Now, when I mentioned about lessons learned, Alex and myself last year, we tried to snowball the school's engagement as it went along from the opening of Chardin, and with COVID and various other things, starting it, we never really got a sense of a community sense of the exhibition. So this time we started to roll out the schools programme in the summer term, and it enabled us to then have the work which was created and inspired by Alex in the schools to then have it all to hand to display alongside the actual painting. And the positive spin from that I found certainly this week is that we'd actually offered each school child a free adult admission ticket for their parents, their guardians, whoever it may be, to come along and see the child's artwork in connection with the actual piece that Rembrandt had painted. And on the back of that, we've had a lot of schools bring their family that usually wouldn't come in to see a piece of art, or let alone into the museum, as a spin-off from that, which has been really positive. I've been really pleased with that uptake this week.
Sorry, Alan, don't interrupt. Should we watch a little bit of the Border TV report so people can see the painting that we're talking about?
Yes, please do.
And then pick up from there. Okay, so this is a nice little piece that went out on Border. Was it last week, Alan, or the week before?
Last Friday.
Yeah. Okay. So it might be slightly judgy, and I think the sound is like about half a second behind the visuals, but I'm sure you'll go with it. But this helps explain the story that Alan was telling there. Here we go. I'll just share my screen.
Tonight, a priceless work of art by Rembrandt has gone on display in Whitehaven.
The masterpiece has been loaned by the National Gallery in London to try to make famous artworks more available to people outside big cities. Hannah McNulty reports.
On the top floor of the Beacon Museum, a transformation has taken place. 17th century Amsterdam has come to Whitehaven, and behind this re-imagining of Rembrandt's own home is one of the Dutch master's finest works. This painting of his wife Saskia in Arcadian costume shows not just his love for her, but his love for nature too.
He actually had painted in his earlier life over 300 paintings and 290 etchings, along with 2,000 drawings. He drew and sketched Saskia many, many times. In fact, if you look at the back catalogue of Rembrandt, you'll see Saskia pops up many times in different paintings.
And what does it mean then to have a Rembrandt on display here in Whitehaven?
Wow, it's fantastic. It's not often you get to stand in such a remote location as Whitehaven is, away from a major city, and to have a masterpiece on display. It really means a lot to the museum to actually have this opportunity to showcase it. But it also brings a lot more opportunity to try and make the museum a champion for learning and a champion for the future, to showcase to other people out there that we can bring these treasures from the National Gallery here to the local museum.
This priceless work of art has to be kept in special conditions, low light to protect it, and the room is temperature controlled. It's also watched around the clock by a team of staff and volunteers. The loan from the National Gallery comes through what's known as the Masterpieces Tour, which offers venues outside of London the chance to host a famous painting every year. This Rembrandt is by far the most high-profile painting ever to be displayed here in Whitehaven. It's hoped it will attract thousands of extra visitors who want to enjoy art like this outside busier urban areas. It opened to the public on Friday, and already visitors from across Cumbria have been to see it. School children of all ages also designed work inspired by Rembrandt, which is displayed alongside the 400-year-old painting.
Oh, that's mine. It wasn't finished though.
And if these three 10-year-olds are anything to go by, then Inspire it definitely has.
Well, the painting is amazing. I couldn't have expected. Well, I'm blown away by it. I can't describe it. It's just amazing.
His paintings didn't, like, after a while, didn't really get popular, and people started to put hatred onto them. They became they lost more money and because of house bills and that, and they became really poor.
Yeah, I've wanted to be an architect for a while, so when we were making the house and learning about him and his wife, she was very ambitious, so it's kind of helped me learn that I shouldn't give up on what I want to be.
I mean, I think it's just about enrichment. It's about making learning feel, out of the ordinary, really. And those are the moments that I personally remember from my own education, and that would hopefully be the same here. It's not looking at something that's just the norm, but something that is a little bit different.
If it's captured your imagination too, then it's in West Cumbria until January. Hannah McNulty, ITV News, Whitehaven.
There she is.
I think at that point, Tom, it's good to pass on to Alex to explain all the school's engagement, if you don't mind, actually.
Absolutely. Alex, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. It's really been great fun working on this project, and I'll just try and give you a little potted history of what we did and where we were coming from. So to get the children engaged in the painting, I did a little bit of research into Saskia herself, and she's a really interesting woman who didn't kind of take the path that was expected of her, in that she was supposed to marry some nice rich gentleman. She came from quite a well-off family, and she didn't. They kept bringing gentlemen to her, and she go, I'm not going to marry him. And she ended up literally hanging out with writers and artists, and which is how she met a lowly artist, which was Rembrandt. And they married very quickly, before the parents could say no. and it was definitely a love match. Ultimately, it's a really sad story, but I tried to keep that away from the children. But the thing I was trying to get across the children in the workshops was this theme of aspiration. So, what people may expect from you, you don't have to do that. You could aspire to be something really, really exciting. So I was having them imagine the best that they could be. And on some of the artworks, some of these are written down, and some of them are really quite moving as well. Children saying, I'd like to be, I'd like to be a nurse so that I can care for my mother a bit more. Things like that. Or I want to be an accountant so that I can earn lots of money and support my family because they haven't done much. Literally words like that. So some of them are quite moving. So we looked at the theme of aspiration, and also I told them all about Rembrandt, told them a little bit about the Netherlands at that time as well. And then they all produced artworks, different artworks. It was where I was showing them, I was looking at elements of art like color or different techniques, but they were also given the opportunity to be very creative within that. And I really bigged up the fact that this is a once in a lifetime opportunity. You were going to actually have your work that you're making today in a gallery with a Rembrandt, who's possibly the most famous portrait painter ever. And once they sort of started understanding that, they got really excited, and they did so well. They really, really did. So trying to afford them the sense of the special, and I think they were all incredibly switched on. They all produced so many different things, and I kind of had lots of different possibilities that each school could do, and the schools all chose ideas, and then I'd turn up and we'd spend the day full on. And I think they had a whale of a time, and it really brought home to them how lucky they were to get this painting in Whitehaven. And hopefully some of them were saying, we're definitely going to go and see this. I'm going to get my dad to take me, and this kind of thing, which was absolutely what we wanted to see. So we did things like little paper tulips. Yeah, there's one. And some have got they would write their aspiration on the leaves. Paper clogs. Okay, don't ask me how long it took me to design that, to come out of an A4 piece of paper. Saskia was, her father was the mayor of Friesland, which is where the Frisian horse is from. So I had them all making these little movable legs for when the exhibition finishes, making these little horses and decorating them. And Alan's had an inspired idea of their kind of cantering around the base of the room where the Rembrandt is. And when all the works come together, Alan and his team have just done this inspirational exhibition and to show their work off. And I think there's a real relationship between Rembrandt and the painting and the children's work. I think, and there's that lovely link of the door between, because one of the things I had was the children doing relief collages of Rembrandt's house, which is now a museum, with a contemporary twist on it. And then to put the front of the house leading into the room where the painting is, such a brilliant idea. So yeah, we had a whale of a time, and I think the best bit was how when I came in and they're all sitting looking blankly at me, never heard of Rembrandt, and at the end of the morning or whatever, everybody was really enthusiastic and wanting to go, and I went away with loads of artwork. But I had just a little aside to how special this is for Whitehaven, because I was in another school yesterday just talking about the project, and the head teacher went, "What, there's a Rembrandt at the Beacon?" So obviously I hadn't seen ITV Board of News, but it's a big thing. It really is a big thing. And I think these children will look back and realise quite what a big thing it is. So it's been really a really good project when you see it all together. And I think when they start coming into the gallery and seeing that, I think they're going to be, as that young lad said, blown away. So
if anyone's got any questions, by the way, just stick your hand up for either Alex or Alan. Alan, what are the practicalities here? It must be worth a bit, this thing. And how do you get it into the building? And are they all very precious about it, or are they used to loaning it out to museums? How does all that work?
I mean, certainly having an indemnity gallery at the Beacon.
Oh, we've just lost Alan. He's just frozen there. Carry on, Alan.
Having a gallery with indemnity standard is key. Certainly, we would never have got through the app.
Alan, if you can switch your camera off, that might. Oh, has he gone completely?
No, just turn my
there
camera
it is.
off.
Off you go, Alan.
I mean, certainly the process is quite lengthy. You've got to meet certain criteria that fits with the National Gallery. But certainly once all the boxes are ticked, so to speak, the National Gallery team are fantastic to work with. In fact, on the opening night itself, they had the executive director come up to open it for us. And their team, they engage a completely different way down there in the National Gallery. And they actually wish they could do more of the engagement that we've done over this project, bringing more community art-based work, and certainly the lessons that we're learning, and also the fact being that the National Gallery, they're very keen for all three partners to meet regularly to evaluate how the projects are going, because obviously it's going on a carousel. Different museums have a different painting at each different time. So for instance, as in once we are finished with Saskia here at the museum in January, it'll go down to the next museum, and then we'll take over the next piece. So it's rotating all the time around the three museums. All paintings from the National Gallery are priceless. You can't put a monetary value on it. It's more what it brings to the community. And certainly, as Alex said, the bringing in that different audience, but also what we've found, the demographics, people are traveling from a good distance to come and see this. Only yesterday, we had a family from the Midlands who came all the way up just to see this painting. Not to come to Cumbria for anything else, just travelled up, came to the painting, stayed over and went back down again, which is phenomenal. It's cool. I mean, the coverage that we're working with as well, BBC ran it on the same Friday, Border News, Cumbria Radio. It seems to be really picking up for some reason that they really want to be involved this time throughout. So it's a fantastic opportunity for people to come and see it, but also for me personally, I think it's more having the volunteer program in place. Watching the volunteers, how they're engaging with the public coming in, and how the staff as a whole have actually embraced this opportunity. So it's for me personally, like, it's been a huge success, and hope we keep building on that, Tom.
So some good spin-offs, not just having a famous picture, but PR opportunities, getting volunteers excited, getting staff excited, and people learning a bit about all these things as well. Do you like the painting, Alan?
Like anything, there are certain elements. Myself, when I'm engaging with the schools, I like to actually walk into the painting. I actually imagine that the painting is like a window. So I actually climb through the window and I go around the back of Saskia and try and find out what else is going on in the room. So for instance, one thing I ask the children is, who's in the painting? And they'll say, well, it's Saskia. It's like, but yes, but who's in that room with her? I mean, we know that Rembrandt would have sketched her many times before actually putting the paint onto the canvas. But obviously at that point, Rembrandt's got to paint her. And as Rembrandt was a fantastic teacher, is there other pupils watching Rembrandt paint his wife? We asked the children, what is Saskia thinking? What is she actually saying? And one of the children yesterday came out with a fantastic piece of a quote. And she was saying, well, I think Saskia's saying to Rembrandt, this had better be good. And myself, I mean, I love art for what it does for other people. I mean, you can't take away the fact being that his love for nature and the Arcadian costume is something. I just think it's done a fantastic job of what we wanted it to do, and long may other museums, hopefully, if they get the opportunity, or not just museums, by the way, it's other cultural venues can apply for the Masterpiece Tour. So I mean, I think that if anybody's interested in trying to go down this route for the next Masterpiece Tour, it's well worth getting involved with the National Gallery at an early stage, just to see what you need, that criteria.
And you've got the contacts, obviously, Alan. People could get in touch with you, yeah?
Oh yes, very much so, Tom. Very much.
I think her hands a bit big. Alex, you're the artist here. Are her hands a bit big?
I don't think they are. I mean, if you think they're actually closer to your hand covers most of your face. If you could see, her hand would cover most of her face.
Right.
But I mean, the one because
do you like it, Alex?
I do, yes. It's funny because I always try and relate the painting to the here and now, especially with children. And you know, I was talking about the fact that she's dressed in this costume, and a little bit about the kind of clothing people wore at that time. But you know, I said people used to like to get dressed up as something and be painted. That was what you did. And then I said to them, cosplay is nothing new, and they kind of love making that connection with then and now. And I also was showing them how the paint would be lumps of rock when it arrived at Rembrandt's house, and then it's ground into a powder, then it's mixed with oil, and then he makes this out of it. So you know, it's I do try and sort of encompass a really broad church of a way of looking at a painting. Yeah. But no, I think it's an interesting painting because you
don't get headgear like that anymore, do you?
You don't get headgear like that, but I think it's also the fact that he drew and painted her over and over. And there's a lovely little statue outside one of the museums of Rembrandt sitting and sketching Saskia, and she's sitting there going like this with her hands. And it's lovely because it's a real relationship between not just sitter and painter, but husband and wife. And I think it's a very egalitarian relationship because she's obviously talking to him as he's drawing it.
So Colin, fellow artist Colin says, foreshortening will make her hands bigger to create the illusion of perspective. Thank you for that insightful comment. Chris has asked, Alan, can you talk a bit about the selection process for the 3 sites to settle on this particular piece? How did you settle on this one?
Yeah, it's something that the National Gallery, when it came to selecting the second painting, they actually gave us the opportunity to look at 12 paintings from various artists. It was quite a task actually, because the different styles and different compositions of each painting lended itself to different projects. To be honest with you, the partners felt that on the back of the Chardin, it was good to go with a strong second name that resonated more with the community. Lots of people who weren't connected in the art world had never heard of Chardin before, where lots of people have heard of more famous artists, and certainly when you think of Van Gogh, Constable Turner, Rembrandt. We also felt that the paintings, the story from Saskia is quite a sad story, as Alex mentioned, and it was something that we were quite keen not to be involved. Obviously, she lost 3 of her children in infancy, and it was something that I felt was quite a dark matter and a really difficult time, especially just through COVID as well. But the consensus was that we needed to go with something something stronger for try and bring in the people to our local areas. And certainly the other museums and attractions have said that as well, that the name Rembrandt has been a lot of strength to the project.
Yeah, sure. Chris Dennett just saying, we're having fun at work trying to recreate famous paintings. I'll suggest someone has a go at this one. That will be, if Chris Dennett does his Dennett-esque thing to it, goodness knows what it's going to look like. It'll probably look like some amoeba or something, or a squid or something like that. But Chris, if you do that, do share it with the group once you've done it. Well, I'll just say, Lorna, by the way, nice to see you. Thank you, Alan and Alex, for sharing your reflections on it. It's there until Sunday, the 8th of January, it says on my piece of paper here. So if you want to go and have a look at it, it looks splendid in its setting, and how delightful that there's a Rembrandt in West Cumbria at the Beacon. Alan and Alex, thanks ever so much, and good luck with again increased footfall to come and see it. And be fascinating to see what the next piece is that you get from the National Gallery. And great to hear that a place like the National Gallery is good to work with as well. You know, sometimes with these things, you kind of worry that they're, you know, oh, it's West Cumbria, we'll just, you know, but actually they're in this together and we're in this together. And it's really good to hear that they're good to work with. Smashing. Thank you ever so much, Alan. Really good to see you as well. And Alex as well. Right. We are now just going to trot along the coast to Workington, to the Carnegie, where Lee Martin White is chair of the trustees and has been for a number of years. And there's a big piece of work being done at Carnegie while it's still been operating as a theatre to look at its strategy, I suspect, and think about its future as well, which Lee has very much spearheaded. as chair of the trustees. So Lee, very nice to have you with us. The floor is yours to tell us what's going on.
How do I follow a Rembrandt? That is a thing. Yeah, so I think it was back in 2021, I came along to talk about what we were doing with the Carnegie, and we asked this group for feedback about the Carnegie, what you thought of the Carnegie, and how we could improve it. And that was on the back of some funding that we'd received to develop an audience development strategy, look at our fundraising and fundraising potential, and carry out a full condition survey and feasibility from the on the building, on the Grade 2 listed building, which coincidentally celebrated its 118th birthday yesterday. And I think, as you said, Tom, for me, I'm a voluntary trustee, and I got involved in the Carnegie in 2011. And it was a public group that was set up as there was a risk of closure of the Carnegie. And genuinely, it frustrates me because the Carnegie is very undervalued as a venue. It's not seen for its potential. And I'm a civil servant by trade, so we love a strategy. And for me, it was all about getting to grips with what it was, starting to speak to people, get out there, talk to people, understand what it could be, and start to turn that ship around. So that's pretty much what I wanted to do, and I'm determined to do it. So we got the funding, we came to yourselves, we spoke to a number of different groups, lots of groups, college students, users.
Please, sorry, just interrupt you. You say you got the funding. Was that difficult to get, or did you find support? Was it Arts Council funding you got, or?
No, it wasn't. It was, funny enough, it was Sellafield.
Okay.
Not surprisingly enough, it was Sellafield. But I've got to be honest, I was quite pleased that they put the trust in us, because, again, it's about selling the potential of what the Carnegie could be, and what we get out of that. So, yeah, it was Sellafield. I'll come on to the Arts Council, though, because we are looking to the Arts Council. So it was a great opportunity for us to find out what the Carnegie is, what it should be. And we consulted far and wide, local students, schools, yourselves, specialists, you name it, we consulted. We got some mixed feedback, it's fair to say. Plenty, including this network, had plenty to say about our variety theatre programme. And we had that wide-ranging consultation with the local amateur performers, college students, cultural groups. But the feedback they've got, which was really rich, was really immense, and taught us a lot about what people think about the Carnegie locally, the passion for the Carnegie particularly, which we didn't understand. We will put on a show. Traditionally, we would have put on a show in the Carnegie, but did we really understand the passion for the Carnegie? No, we didn't. Did we understand how users look to the Carnegie as an outlet for cultural creativity? No, we didn't. But it is. It absolutely is. So we found out there's strong support and passion for the Carnegie to succeed. We found that there's a real gap in terms of cultural creativity on the West Coast, particularly Workington. There's a lack of awareness about what the Carnegie is, what's on at the Carnegie, what the Carnegie's about. There was a lack of programme appeal. One of the comments that we received was, I want to trust in their quality control. And I'll pick that one up now. So as trustees, there are no misogynistic acts ever going to be seen on the Carnegie stage again. And that was one comment that stuck in my mind from this network. That's not going to happen. You will never see them again on the Carnegie stage. What we're doing with the programme is we're stripping the programme back. So we will provide a variety programme, but we want to develop the programme so that there's gaps in it to develop our young people, so that the stage is theirs primarily. So the key highlights that we got from the audience development research that we've done, we know who our target audiences are. Surprisingly, they're young people. So there are 3 age brackets: 5 to 11, 11 to 16, 16 to 25. Local creatives, probably yourselves, and arts attenders. We really want to develop that side of what we do. We will have a variety programme, and the variety programme, while some may raise their eyebrows and think, actually, it's cheap, it brings adults in, it brings parents in, who then go home and tell their children, we've seen something on the stage. learn to play a musical instrument, they come back in through the other set of doors and join our music centre. They go through an art toward qualification and come out the other side. So it complements each other. And then third sector organisations, so things like health and wellbeing programmes, that's very key to us, and we see that as a real need locally, and probably most of yourselves will find that as a local need, particularly venues. That is something that we need to develop. Everyone was keen to work with the Carnegie to deliver a new programme, particularly funding can be secured. And they have the attitude to do that. That was one thing with us. And the key message from that was by developing an audience at one venue, all venues will benefit. And this was particularly during COVID, so it was quite interesting to hear that. And I think that's something that we all need to remember. We all said that during the pandemic, during the lockdowns, and it's something we must remember and we must take forward.
So what, everyone benefits when you benefit, sort of thing.
Yeah, and there's no risk to another venue. So we do something completely different to, say, Rose Hill, because that is just up the road. And we recognise that, we understand that. Do you talk to Rose Hill regularly? You know, do you kind of compare and contrast, or? I acknowledge Rose Hill because Rose Hill is one of the organisations that we've got a really strong relationship with right now. We're looking at joint funding bids. We're looking at how we can work together. We're looking at shared resource. It's really, really beneficial for both of us. And that's something that's come out of the pandemic, and something that we all recognise. Partnering, so delivering engagement projects, new audiences, developing relationships with sectors such as local schools. We've got local schools banging down our door to do stuff. And interestingly, some of the conversations I've been having with other groups is about they can't reach local schools, they can't talk to local schools. I've got local schools coming to me saying, we need something, we want something, can the Carnegie do something? And that's really interesting for me, because it's like they clearly do know the Carnegie can be something, but actually our limitation is our resource at the minute. So that's something else that we're trying to work on. And then West Cumbria has definite gaps in provision of music participation programmes for young people and adults. That's something that we recognise, and that's something that we're looking to fill a gap in. And then local infrastructure in West Cumbria to support theatre and performing arts, which could be addressed by working together. So they were the key highlights for us from the audience development strategy and the research that we've done. I'll pause. Any questions, any thoughts before I go into what we're doing next?
Sarah's just saying there in chat, lovely place, lovely space to work in, and friendly, helpful staff, great venue, which is really nice to see. Sarah's obviously done some good work there. Kate?
Two thoughts spring to mind. One is that, and I'll just put it in chat, if you live in Workington and you don't own a car, then Rose Hill Theatre is not just up the road, is it? Which means that local provision in Workington is just so important. It makes the Carnegie really, really important. And the other thing is that I don't think personally, and I think I said this during the consultation, I don't think that you should feel the need to apologise for a variety programme, providing there's a strategy to sort of deepening people's engagement in more things. And I think that's what you're describing. So I don't think you should feel, I wouldn't like you to feel defensive of that.
Yeah, no, I definitely don't feel defensive about it, but we do acknowledge that actually things move on and times move on, but we're moving on for the right reason now.
Vicky, you work at the university. Do you want to just pick up on what you put in chat there with Lee?
Yeah, obviously, we're not obviously at all. We've just set up the Centre for Arts and Participation within the University of Cumbria Institute of Arts. And at the moment, we're all performing artists in that team, but we have a wider resource in the Institute and across the university because we've got 5 different campuses. So we're developing work around health and arts, social prescribing, and we have a real remit to get out across Cumbria and to try and make a difference to aspiration, all the things that this group talks about. So, I mean, there's clear links. I've got quite a lot of ideas spinning around in my head, so it'd be wonderful to have a chat. But I've met a couple of others here as well. And I just think we could probably tap in and support as well. So if anyone wants to contact me, I'll put my email in the chat. Is that okay?
Yeah, sorry to jump in. Yeah, please do put your, because I think there'll be other people who are interested in what you're doing there, Vicky. I certainly need to learn what you're doing there, and that'd be great if you put your contacts into chat.
Yeah, and then I think a bit later down the line, because we've got some pilot projects going now, and once we've done that, we'll be able to say this is exactly who we are and launch properly and invite everybody to the launch as well, which we're hoping for first week in December. But yeah, I won't take any more time.
Thanks. Lee.
Thanks, Vicky. Thanks, Tom. So where we are now, our core program objectives: music development, children and young people, health and well-being. Our approach, so I've covered off the variety program. We'll continue with that, but we've stripped it right back so that we can bring forward development of music, theatre, and performing arts. We'll continue to deliver our community theatre programme. So we've got 3 fantastic amateur groups who use the Carnegie. They call it their creative home. But in the next few months, we're going to launch a new youth theatre, which will complement and build on the existing music centre. And we want to grow those together because we believe they can really flourish. We're going to look to launch new projects to develop our understanding further, particularly around young people. So we had hoped to launch a young producers project this year. However, our initial application was not backed by ACE, so we not to be outdone, we will dust ourselves down and we will put that bid back into ACE again to try and get the funding to get that off the ground. Volunteering programme, we're thriving. We've got over 50 volunteers, which is fantastic that we've managed to do that, and I don't know how we've managed to do it.
What sort of roles do they do, Lee? Is it the whole sort of gamut?
The whole board.
Yeah.
So from box office to helping with marketing, social media, front of house, obviously, even technical. It's across the whole breadth of what the Carnegie does, which is fantastic for us because without them, we couldn't do what we do.
So how many actual full-time or part-time paid staff are there?
So in the theatre itself, we have 2.5 full-time staff because we obviously went through a redundancy exercise. So we are currently recruiting for an executive director, primarily to take the workload off me because I do have a day job, believe it or not. So we are looking for somebody to take forward our plans, and then from that point onwards to then start growing the Carnegie around what it needs to be, because we've come out of the pandemic. Things aren't necessarily the way it needs to be going forward. So we want somebody to come in and work out what it needs to be, how it needs to deliver our plans, and then go from there.
And what's your motivation, Lee, in all of this? Why do you, I mean, you're a volunteer as well. Why do you do this?
So I recognise what the Carnegie could be. And I think walking into, I mean, I might have said this last time, in 2011, I walked into the Carnegie, and it was the first time that I'd actually really walked behind the scenes of the Carnegie. I was a business manager for an amateur musical society. I got involved because of the public meeting, and I really got struck by the Carnegie, what it could be, what it is to so many, and I've just been determined to change it. And that's probably because my professional day job is a change manager, but I just know it can be so much more to so many people, and that's it. That is essentially it. And I've said to quite a few people this week, I work night and day doing it. I will work between my day job, as many volunteers will. I work at night just to make sure it succeeds, but I have a passion for it.
And are you from Workington? Is that your manor?
So the distinction is I'm from Cockermouth, so I'll put that out there. But yeah, I've obviously lived in Workington for over 20 years now. Yeah. So
it's part of your community.
Yeah, it absolutely is. Yeah. So yeah, I mean that's pretty much where we are, and as I've said, we're growing partnerships. We're looking to grow partnerships more. Schools I've mentioned, they're banging down our door. Even met with the local social prescribing team to say what's the need, and I understand the need more than most probably now, and that links back to the schools. And we're also developing a living room project, so pretty much mirroring what Copeland Wellness are doing. So it's where we're offering hot food, creative activities, and topical conversations with specialists going through winter for those that need it the most. So we're looking to develop that right now. And I think the challenges, I was just going to mention some of the challenges very briefly. So fundraising strategy, we had that done. We recognise that, you know, in contrast, our fundraising has been quite low compared to other venues. So in percentages, 1.3 of our income over the past 5 years has been fundraised compared to 7.5 across other venues. Again, quite interesting to kind of go into this, but this is what we didn't know. We had a fire in our technical workshop last December, which destroyed quite a lot of our equipment. However, we've bounced back from that, and we're kind of on the right track in terms of what we're doing. The grade 2 listed building, it is a grade 2 listed building. It continues to give us challenges. It is 118 years old. We need to find around 400,000 in the next 5 years just to maintain it. And we are looking at around about a £4 million capital project to redevelop the internal of the building, just to make it suitable for what we now know the Carnegie can be and can do. And finally, I was just going to say about the brand and the vision and the mission. So our brand is a bit of a stigma. So it was a local authority venue. I think that people are still stuck in it being a local authority venue. So we are changing the brand in December. It's misunderstood. The brand will reflect the fact it's a community venue and it's a charitable venue. And the last point I was going to really make was, and this is an exclusive for the network because we've not announced this. So our vision, our new vision, which we're launching in December, is a vibrant and enriched community that calls the Carnegie its creative home. And the mission is we will enrich the lives of the people of West Cumbria through a wide-ranging programme of quality theatre, music, performance and culture, and by giving people the opportunity to learn new skills and to enjoy new cultural experiences. We will create a vibrant community hub where people can meet together to celebrate, to explore, to be educated, inspired and entertained.
Just repeat those two statements again, Lee.
Vision is a vibrant, enriched community that calls the Carnegie its creative home. And the mission, we will enrich the lives of the people of West Cumbria through a wide-ranging programme of quality theatre, music, performance and culture, and by giving people the opportunity to learn new skills and to enjoy new cultural experiences. We will create a vibrant community hub where people can meet together to celebrate, to explore, to be educated, inspired and entertained.
Just some small ambitions there then. I like the word vibrant and enriched home in that first statement. That's a really nice, you know, friendly, if I can put it, way of describing what it is. I think it sounds like you need a Rembrandt in the lobby to me.
You do. I was actually thinking that, Alan. So yeah, we do need a Rembrandt.
Or Van Gogh or, you know, Picasso, something like that.